This is Kyla James again, and for this video, I am going to share to you the best topics that I've learned in Math 204 through Dr. Refugio's lessons throughout the semester. So this video is going to cover up about the types of probability. So there are three types of probabilities. The first one is classical, the second one is empirical, and the last one is subjective. So in this lesson, I'm going to do my best to impart my knowledge about this topic so that you will also learn about this lesson in a way that will be comprehensive and simple yet understandable. So let's proceed. The first type of probability, as I've mentioned earlier, is the classical probability. In this type of probability, each outcome in the sample space is equally likely. So the classical example for this type of probability is a fair die, or the toss of a coin. So when you roll a die, each outcome is equally likely because it's either you get a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 5, or a 6. The probabilities of each outcome is 1 over 6. For the other example, the toss of a coin, so it's either heads or tails. The probability of each outcome is 1/2. Now the formula in order to get the classical probability is the number of outcomes of event E and the number of total outcomes. So in order to understand that further, we're going to have some examples later. So the next type of probability is the empirical probability. In this type of probability, we're going to talk about frequencies. So this type of probability, unlike the classical probability, is that the outcomes in empirical probability are not equally likely. So in empirical probability, it is based on experiments. It's based on observations through experiments. So it is also based on the relative frequency of an event. Relative frequency means how often this event happens throughout your experiment. So unlike classical probability, where the formula is the number of outcomes of the event divided by the total number of outcomes, in empirical probability, the formula is the frequency of that event divided by your n, which is the total frequency or the summation of all the frequencies. So the last type of probability that we're going to tackle about is subjective probability. This type of probability covers estimates, educated guesses, or simply like your hunches, like kanang muntag-antag-an ka, like intuition. In other words, in English, it's called intuition. So an example of this is when the doctor tells the patient that his or her chance for full recovery is only 90% or 80%. That type of probability, that type of probability is subjective because that is based on the doctor's it's based on his educated guess as through his experience as a doctor nga. This type of disease, para makarecover ka fully, is usually 90% ang probability nga makarecover fully. So, now that you've learned the definitions and the formulas for each type of probability, I'm going to show you some examples for each type so that you can understand the probabilities further. I mean, the type of probabilities further. And then for each example, you are going to classify which type it is and give me the reason why you think that is the type of probability. And also, if it is empirical or classical, we're going to solve for the probability that the problem or the example will ask for. So just focus on your screens because I'm going to display it. So we have here example number 1. You roll a 12-sided die. Find the probability of the following events. Event A, rolling a 4, and event B, rolling a number less than 6. So what type of probability is this? This is a classical probability. Why? Because each outcome is equally likely. So the sample space for this example is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12 because it is a 12-sided die. So recall that the formula of a classical probability is the number of outcomes of event A over the number of total outcomes. So the number of total outcomes for this example would be 12. Now, for event A, the number of outcomes of event A is only 1 because there's only one 4 in the sample space. So the answer would be the probability of rolling a 4 equals 1 over 12. Next is event B, rolling a number less than 6. So as I've said earlier, the number of total outcomes would be 12, and the number of outcomes of event B would be 5 because there are 5 numbers less than 6, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Therefore, the answer for event B is this. The probability of rolling a number less than 6 is equal to 5 over 12. Next, we have example 1.2. The food committee for the sports tournament at Barangay Venice conducted a survey on whether the athletes would prefer Gatorade, Cobra, or Sting for their energy drink. 45 athletes chose Gatorade, 30 chose Cobra, and 25 chose Sting. What is the probability of someone choosing Sting? So, what do you think this type of probability is? This is an empirical probability. Why? Because it is based on observations from experiments. The frequency of choosing Sting is 25, and the total frequency is 100. That is 45 plus 30 plus 25. So as you can recall, the formula for empirical probability is the frequency of the event over the total frequency. So the answer for this would be the probability of choosing Sting equals 25 over 100, or in decimal form, 0.25. Lastly, we have example 1.3. The probability that you'll find a boyfriend is 1%. What type of probability do you think this is? This is subjective probability. Why? Because it is most likely an educated guess or intuition. That's all for this video. Thank you and happy learning!